What's up, guys? This is Twinless Twin, and we're doing some testing matches for the RC, focusing on the Yawgmoth matchup. So looking at this first hand, we don't have a way to get our second land, so we're going to mulligan. This one's a keep, and I think I'm going to put back... It's somewhat close because I don't really want to be on 6 and pitch casting Subtlety. And I don't really want to put back, but if I want a hard cast Subtlety, maybe I don't want to put back the lands. I think it's still keep, put back Steam Vents. We have a lot of draws at further lands, and we can eventually hard cast the Subtlety. Now, one thing that's somewhat important is trying to not play your DRC into your opponent's Bowmasters. So we're going to have to keep that in mind as we plan our next turn. If they have Delighted Halfling, we're going to have to dig pretty hard for a Bolt. This is by no means a hand that I'm super excited to be keeping here. I'm actually almost okay playing the DRC into a Bowmasters at this point because filling up the yard for a quick Yacht or Murktide does seem pretty tempting here. Alright, we'll keep the Bolt on top. I guess the risk is... Yeah, let's just not use these bubbles. Because if they have Bowmaster, they can just Bowmaster in their upkeep and kill our DRC while also getting the extra trigger from the baubles. If they just play Grist here, it's kind of awkward for them because we can threaten to maybe kill it or pressure it with the DRC. Alright. I assume this is Grist. And again, I'm not actually that afraid of Grist here, I don't think. Alright. Now let's bobble them, Grist, on top. It's good to know about. We have Delirium wrapped up here, and we can kill the Halfling. Alright.
So the opportunities to throw the ball against this team are going to be the quick throws over the middle or deep against these two cornerbacks. That's where they've been having issues, and that's really...
Sorry about that. I don't know why I can hear the audio to that right now. I had that game on in the background, but I'm not watching it. Okay. So... we can bobble ourselves to see if we want to... I mean, I guess we're just going to be surveilling. And we're going to fetch anyways, right? Probably. Well, I guess bobble self... It's a little bit tricky. So what we're going to... we know we want to have Delirium this turn, so we know we're very likely going to be fetching unless our top card gives us Delirium, which would mean it's another land. If it is another land, do we want to put it in the graveyard? It's close. We have the iteration now. So I think we should actually just be fetching here. And I'm going to fetch Shock. Just to keep maximum options open. I'm not sure it's really going to matter, but... And do we want to bolt the Halfling? I presume we want to bolt Halfling here so they don't have a quick Yawgmoth. Well, we already know what their top card is. I guess Bauble Self is okay. Alright, it's a land. Hopefully now, because we killed their Halfling, they don't have a very good play this next turn. Like, plus Grist is fine. We'll just kill it. They get their guy, but... Oof. Cauldron is annoying, like always. Man. Carta's the bane of my existence, if I had to describe it. So they can turn an insect into... Alright. I'm not really sure what that says. We lose Delirium. Well, we don't have any outs to the Cauldron. If we play a 4/4 Murktide, that doesn't really work. I guess we just fetch an island here. I'm trying to think about how we win, and the answer is probably DRC killing the Grist and then playing like 2 Murktides or something like that. See, I'm not even sure we want to attack the Grist this turn, though, because it just runs the risk of... Attacking the Grist runs the risk of them. They Cauldron the Grist, and then they have all these things that start to put counters on it. I think we want to kill the Grist next turn with a big... Oh, but then they can just minus the Grist if we don't attack it and kill our DRC, which I guess is also bad. We should fill up our yard a little bit, I think. Alright, so they can't take away Delirium from us doing this. And we can, like, double Murktide next turn, but we need to find a blue card to... Alright, yeah, I guess we're attacking the Grist. 1, 2, 3. So we can play 2 6/6s if we attack them to 16, and then minus Grist. If we attack the Grist, they're just gonna play another one, right? And minus that one, and then start to plus other guys. Ragavan's doing literally nothing. I mean, other question is, what is this DRC doing when we... Let's attack them for 3 minus... Alright, yeah, we should attack this Grist. I've decided. That means that if they play another Grist, they probably have to minus it also. This is kind of an example of why I'm suspect of subtlety. We did obviously mulligan this game, but it feels really hard to leverage the subtlety. 4 mana feels like a lot, and I'm just not very sold on subtlety being the playmaker we want in this matchup. Use this bauble. Alright, they're drawing a wall of roots. That's okay, I think. We'll have to hope that their other cards are bad. Alright, DRC is not going to do anything for us. Alright, what should we leave behind? Baubles. Definitely get rid of the creatures so they can't use our creatures to put counters on their guys. Not that I think it'll matter, but it could. If these were 8/8s, we would have outs to like bolts, I guess. Could we draw cantrip into Murktide? Maybe. That would be not even lethal though. Is this Yawgmoth? Another grist. Okay, we are dead. Alright, so post board, subtlety, fluster, cast into fire, cursed totem, Brotherhood's End, I think are cards that make sense to bring in. The cards you want to cut are definitely for Ragavans, at least on the draw. And then I guess there's a question of maybe we cut a Pierce. Pierce is a little bit attractive, just because it does tag the skull, Stern Skull, or the Cursed Totem. No, sorry, the Agatha Soul Cauldron, and the Cord, which are two of their very effective cards. And if our goal is to try to condense the game, then maybe that's a play that we could try to make. Like, if the goal is to try to tempo them, Pierce becomes more effective in those tempo-oriented games because it's alive. Whereas if the goal is to kind of grind them out, then Pierce is less appealing, I'd say. Let's try and keep both Pierces in even and see, just to maximize that. So subtlety, Stern Scolding, cast into the fire, cursed totem, Brotherhood's End. I guess the question is, do we want Brotherhood's End? Personally, I'm not even convinced we want these subtleties. Twitter seems to think you want the subtleties, but my experience has been that you're not getting a ton of value from them. I could see maybe on the draw trimming an iteration, but I think iteration is generally pretty good. Alright, let's go without the Brotherhood's End for now. Alright, I really like this hand. I'm gonna start fetch shocking. Because we're going to be doing a lot of surveilling and scrying, and I'd rather just keep those cards in the same place. I also think that there's an argument to bolt in upkeep. So here we have to decide if we want to preordain or just pass. I think that we have to just attack and pass with Stern Scolding. The Bowmasters threatens to destroy our DRC if we don't flip a creature or artifact. So I don't think we can risk the preordain there. So my goal is definitely to get Delirium here. I'm expecting, because they're passing, that they have Bowmasters. So I need to make sure that I'm not tapping out of the Stern Scolding. Alright, I actually just go for it there. I think that we get a little bit rewarded for this. I want to put Subtlety in the graveyard because then we get Delirium after we cast either Expressive or Preordain. I think it'll kind of depend on what we draw. Counterspell. Now Preordain seems like a good play because a land lets us hold up Counterspell and then cast Expressive next turn. We could also find like a Stern Scolding or something. Alright, I think I'll top both of these. I feel good about double Expressive Iteration. Wall of Roots is interesting. It's almost tempting to counterspell it because it probably takes away their ability to cast anything else. They could literally have another Bowmaster, a lot of stuff that lets them go wide, and this does deny Chord of Calling to an extent. We have Cast into the Fire for their Cauldron. I think I will counterspell this. Playing the game of Resource Denial is something that I wanted to experiment with a little bit more. I think it's a little bit hand dependent, but because of how clunky their deck can be. Oh, do they have Fatal Push? Wow. Okay, I'd say that's a punish. For sure, but you get to start iterationing. Well, another punish is that when we cast Iteration, we have no targets for a removal spell off the Iteration, which is pretty suboptimal as well. All around, not great. And now they get to resolve Wrist. Okay. Stern Scolding a little bit too late. Now we need to find an Unholy Heat. Of which we did just send one to the bottom. Okay. We'll play this DRC out. And hold up the Stern Scolding. They just plus. Feels like maybe they're working towards Chord of Calling, which currently they could go Chord for 4. That's not good. Yeah, I think they're going to Chord of Calling. Yep. Chord for 4. Man, it's just always Chord of Calling. The tapped land kind of hurting us there. I think that we had a chance to cast into the fire if they fetched that land, because I think that the chord was pretty obvious. I guess then they can chord for 3, but on the bright side they are at 10. We have a Stern Scolding, so if we find Unholy Heat here, we're actually probably in pretty good shape. Potentially Cast into the Fire can like force them to sacrifice Yawgmoth. Let's just max this Murktide to make sure that they're forced into minus and Grist. And hopefully then they have to sacrifice the Yawgmoth, but... Alright, I guess we started scolding this because otherwise it's going to own us. I think we're probably just crushed here, I assume. We're basically hoping that they have drawn only lands, probably. Like any spell here basically probably beats us. I guess counterspelling Wall of Roots really went wrong because of the Fatal Push. If they didn't have the Fatal Push, it actually would have been totally fine. And I think the Fatal Push was like a 1 outer, basically. I think that their list has 1 Fatal Push, which it makes sense that they bring it in for our Murktides and... But they have 2 Fatal Pushes and a Pylon. Pylon they couldn't cast. Now they can cast Pylon. Okay, we're dead. Alright, we'll see you guys for the next match. I'll just keep the reel running. We'll do these all together. Let me turn the light on so I can see a little bit better. I actually don't know why I'm even wearing these headphones because I'm using my headset to record. So against Yawgmoth, obviously we're not super happy with having Ragavan. But Ragavan on the play is somewhat, reasonable. They have to have Young Wolf to punish it. If they have Halfling or no play, then the Ragavan starts to hit and we have this counter spell to back it up, which actually makes it a pretty reasonable threat. So this is probably the situation where we're most likely to get some value out of the Ragavan. Hopefully they don't have the Young Wolf. They do have the Young Wolf. Okay. I think attacking is good. We might want to bolt and kill this Young Wolf at some point, and we also think we could draw another Ragavan and want to dash that at some point. Just accept that we got 2 for 1. I guess I'd want to save this bolt if they had a Delighted Halfling, but I expect I'll probably be end step bolting. If they also if they have Cauldron, then we want to stop that Halfling. Okay. Halfling. Okay. So I think we start scolding this. Bolt this. It's a reasonable draw. Prudent lets us. Alright, Bubble Self. Ragavan, please shuffle. Grab an island. I'm actually pretty tempted to jam a Murktide here. That forces them to have Grist. Grist plus land immediately, otherwise we have Counterspell up. I guess if they have Cauldron, they can invalidate our... So Grist and Cauldron kind of invalidate us a little bit. They might not have a land drop because they could definitely be counting on these 2 Halflings. My instinct is we should jam the Murktide and make them have something, because getting this 6/6 down is going to put us in a much healthier position than if we don't. If they do play Cauldron, potentially we can draw like a Bolt for the Yawgmoth. Subtlety is... okay, I'll admit it. Subtlety was good here, I think. Although, truthfully, it's like, even if... so they play Grist. Do we even Subtlety here? I guess we're supposed to Subtlety and then Peel. Yeah, we're actually appealing to like a good number of outs, right? Because removal spell kills their Yawgmoth also. So this puts us in a much better spot than if we just let the Grist resolve. Then we're just going to get buried by the Grist probably. Alright, we need a Bolt or something. Spell Pierce, that does nothing. Classic. Classic Spell Pierce. Maybe they go for a Soul Cauldron or something. We could definitely still be in this game, but we're definitely behind. Maybe my instinct was wrong. And they have 4 Grist, but we had a lot of outs there. We had like 12 outs, and we had some redraws. We were like probably 1 and 3 or something. Okay, I'm gonna cast that. We're totally screwed. Hopefully they play Cauldron here and we pierce it or something. I think Subtlety just kind of stinks. Though maybe just playing that Murktide was wrong in that spot. The issue is they don't even have to play their Grist into a counterspell. So I think making them have exactly Grist there is probably most important. Alright, we can concede. I don't think you want EE. I don't really think you want Hearse. It somewhat interacts with the Cauldron, but the issue is that they can still use the Cauldron as like a graveyard hate piece on your yard. Alright, definitely keeping this. Though the risk is we don't really have a way to get Delirium quickly. Getting to go DRC into DRC holding up Stern Scolding is too tempting to pass up. If they are bringing in cards like Pylon and Fatal Push also, then the Pierces become even more attractive because there's a chance you can tag them. I also think that Pierce might be a card that Yawgmoth players don't expect you to really have because they are mainly a creature strategy, so it might not even really fully be on their radar post-board, which can get you some value. Turn 1 Twilight Mire on a mold of 5. We need to work towards Delirium and capitalize on this advantage. On a mold of 5, definitely feels like this will come down to being a resource battle, and we should focus on trying to deny any of their like Bowmaster, anything that puts material into play. So we Stern Scolding this Bowmasters. We're digging for like, yeah, Iteration is pretty perfect, I think. I'm not sure we want to cast it this turn. I guess it does give us a lot of looks. But it takes down Counterspell, which could be important if they have a Cauldron or something. Alright, I'm going to wait 1 turn on this Iteration. Wall of Roots. I'll let that resolve. Cauldron, I would like to counter. I'd like to top Counterspell. I guess the issue is that we don't have Delirium stills, but Counterspell on top should give us a lot of protection from any of their scarier draws. I think that the aggressive play is to Iteration here. Maybe we're supposed to be Iterationing. They did just jam this Cauldron into what felt like a kind of obvious Counterspell, so my thought is they might have another payoff to follow it up. Like, if they only had 1 payoff, they'd probably try to sequence around it. Shieldred. Kind of funny because I don't think it's that scary here, actually, with this Unholy Heat, but it's probably still good enough to counterspell. If anything else, to dig us for... We really need the Delirium here, so I'm going to bin the Shredder, because it gives us creature type in the graveyard. Bolting the Wall of Roots is probably also a reasonable play here. This land doesn't really do a ton for us. I guess if there's Stern Scolding also, but I think I'd rather bin it and see what we can find. Alright, a Heat. Means we get to save the Bolt. Bolt can go face, which actually takes a turn off the clock, so I feel pretty good about that too. I guess in this sense we're exposed to Endurance a little bit. We'd have to rebuild. Let's put this Bauble on top in case they do have Endurance, because it'll help us rebuild towards Delirium really quickly. Probably on the same turn. Like, say they just slam Endurance here while we're tapped out. We get to go Bauble, Iteration, Unholy Heat, the Endurance. I expect that to be good. Alright. The Bauble is on top. Do we still want it there? Or do we want to upkeep this Unholy Heat? So if we upkeep the Unholy Heat, we mill Bauble and get 1 extra look. I think I kind of prefer digging for like a counter between the Unholy Heat and the Bauble. That's probably the best way to lock the opponent out of this game. Oh, they're just dead, sorry, because we just bolt them. I don't know why I'm tanking on this. They are just dead. So the double DRC draw was really strong, unsurprisingly. I guess my temptation is maybe to trim an Iteration for a Brother's Hood end. I think I'm probably going to be cutting one of the subtleties from my list. I just feel like that card is, you know, less and less well positioned. And there are other things we can do to combat Amulet. It is a really strong card against Amulet, but not the only card that is strong against Amulet, I guess is the best way to say it. And if it's just not performing against Yawgmoth... I guess the other thing is it's fine against scam, but it's gotten a lot worse because now they're only grief scamming you, like some of the, like a lot, but they're scamming you a lot less, right? And that's why Subtlety was good, was just to stop the scams on turn 1 when they had Fury as well. Now that they don't have that, alright, I like to use my Bolt turn 1. And I want to hold this Bauble to use it with DRC. Halfling. Halfling. Okay. Our opponent is on half of a Ling. I don't know. I mean, we could Bauble ourselves. And see if we have a removal spell on top is my thought. We do. Now we'll just kill all these halflings. Do they have Grist? They do. Okay. Let's play DRC and Preordain. Get rid of the Spell Pierce. I think top of the land is good. Gives us, I think a third land is going to open up a lot of potential draws for us that would be beneficial, but we'll see. Like, then it makes Stern Scolding a really good draw, a removal spell is a really good draw to complement a Murktide. So that's 4, 6. I guess that's only 6 cards, because we've already used 3 removal spells, I'm realizing. Maybe it's... And if we draw another land after that, it's not even the end of the world, because we have Shredder. So we can go Shredder Murktide, which is pretty good. Soul Cauldron. So they can take away Delirium here, so we should not block. If they just target the Preordain or Mishra's Bubble, we lose Delirium and then lose our DRC. Which is still the case now. And now we have to like play a Murktide out, I guess. So that we don't lose our DRC. This is not a good spot for us at all. Triple Halfling is very good for them. It gave us no opportunity to hold up interaction for their Grist on turn 3. And forced us to use all our removal spells. But the Cauldron probably still would have been trouble for us. Maybe we could have raced it with a Murktide. Chord of Calling for 2. It's just Bowmaster here to kill the DRC. Okay. And then minus Grist to kill Murktide. We draw Bolt. We can play a Murktide. Sacking the Bowmaster token is interesting because it already has the counter on it. Probably should sack an Insect. Get rid of all our creatures, trigger Shredder. Discard this Murktide. Here we go. They get another. Oh, that's why they did it. Is because they thought if they trigger the Bowmaster again, they get a new guy. That makes sense then. And my guess is because they use this chord so aggressively, I would be pretty surprised if they didn't have another chord. Maybe that's not true, though. Maybe they just didn't have any... Like, my guess is they have a Yawgmoth or some chord in hand. They also have been missing land drops, so we know they probably have spells. Alright, they get to kill our Murktide. Here's where Brotherhood's End would be really good. Probably uniquely so. Like, maybe the only card that can save us here. So, I guess that's a one point for Brotherhood's End. Maybe we even want to have a second copy of that card if these are board states that we commonly reach, but it's tricky because you don't want to be locked in on one plan. Maybe it's okay to be. I guess we take Spell Pierce. Well, no, we should just take Counterspell to hand and play a DRC. It triggers their army, but not before the DRC resolves, so... Discarding... Murktide here, I think. The Murktide plan does not seem very likely to be working out with this Cauldron in play staying active. So, okay, discarding it. Alright, attacking Grist doesn't really help very much. It just means they get to put it under the Soul Cauldron. So, my question is, I think we're just not attacking because we actually need to block here. Is this game 3? I think it might be. It's the only game we've won so far, the one where they mulligan to 5. Definitely feels like a tough matchup. Or a matchup where we need another approach. And that's kind of the point of running these testing matches. Let me start to rent another Brotherhood's End. For our next match, we'll add another Brotherhood's End and see if we can leverage those as any consistency in our plan. Oh, wow, that was really quick. Oh, we already have 2 somehow? I guess we didn't need that one then. Sure, so they trigger our... Oh, interesting. Maybe they get caught off guard. This Blood Artist is a real problem. We do get to... They legend rule their cauldron. And we get... Really? What? Am I missing something here? Oh, they're just going to make a 5. They want to make a 5/5 they can attack me with. Well, we have now a 4/6. So, that's a bit interesting. Alright, what's our play here? Probably play Shredder and then kill the Cauldron in response to them activating it. And also we have to attack the Grist. Then we have... We'll be taking a lot of damage. Potentially too much because we need to kill the Artist and... So maybe we can't kill the Cauldron. Oh, God. I think we're just pretty dead here, but... The play has to start with attack Grist. Grist goes down, and then we kill the Cauldron. We get a 10 here. Oh. Oops. Never took the... Well, I already have it, I guess, so... It's okay. Okay. So this is this one. Discard that. And this is the next one. I might just be taking lethal here. Cursed Totem wouldn't even... really do anything here. I do question its efficacy. They have another Grist. I guess that makes sense for a card they could have in their hand. That'll be enough to kill us. Okay, let's make the change, adding the Brotherhood's End in. Let's cut the subtlety. Alright, let's go for a game match. Oh, oops, wrong. That's a trade request. We want to do a challenge.